So let's use this as an opportunity to move into round number three, where I want to sit down with you and talk to you about 2019. The year is behind us, and we can have the opportunity to kind of look back and point out some of the bigger moments from 2019. And I just want to talk about three little topics: fighter of the year, and story of the year. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Schwann. For my fighter of the year for 2019, I want to go with Israel Adesanya. He fought three times in 2019, defeating Robert Whitaker, Anderson Silva, and Kelvin Gastelum. And I think from a both in the cage and out of the cage standpoint, he did the most to further his career, and becoming an actual champion. That's why I did not pick Jorge Masvidal, because the BMF title is what it is. But Israel Adesanya has become an actual champion, and he's become someone who can be looked at as a figure within New Zealand and Australia. They can book a whole card around him now. I think that they will in the near future. What are your thoughts on the 2019 Fighter of the Year? Who would you pick and why?
I'd probably have to say Israel. Just it'd be a tie between him and maybe if I'm recalling the timing right, maybe Amanda Nunes, just because of her wins over Holm and her wins over Cyborg. I think that was the same calendar year.
No,
She beat
Cyborg was in December last year. The December of
okay,
2018.
okay, then I'd have to go strictly with Adesanya. I know Masvidal had a big year, but Ben Askren hadn't really accomplished a whole lot in the UFC. Beating up Darren Till, while it was a dynamic and great win, he's on a streak and he's got a kind of name behind him. The level of opposition and the importance of the wins doesn't match to what Israel Adesanya did. He beat the former champion. He beat Kelvin Gastelum, who was a top 3 or 4 fighter. He beat Anderson Silva. He basically, in this year's span, fought an ascending level of fighter, and every single time he fought him, he looks more and more impressive, regardless of the style, regardless of the skill set, regardless of the age. And that's something you just can't ignore. And the fact, like you said, he's fighting for a country, and then he's also fighting for another group of people, being of his actual background, of his ethnicity. So it's like he's covering a lot of bases, and he's representing a lot of different cultures, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different ethnicities, and he's doing so in a manner that's pretty original in a sense, from the perspective of fighting, of a guy who's coming with his limited amount of experience in mixed martial arts, who's really taken on all comers and done so in a more impressive fashion each and every fight. I mean, I don't know how you can. I don't know who else you could pick over him. Jorge Masvidal probably has the best argument, but his argument's pretty weak when you actually look at who he beat and what it meant for the division.
Okay. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is fight of the year. Now, I'm going to stay with the same guy because Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum was my fight of 2019 for so many different reasons. Just for so much that was taken out of these guys and what they both had to overcome. I think this may be a fight when we look back at it. I mean, Kelvin Gastelum may not look the same going forward. He didn't look the same against Darren Till when he lost that fight at UFC 246, I believe, or 236, whatever that number was, with Masvidal and Diaz. But that is my fight of the year. Those two guys put it all on the line, and it was a showcase opportunity where Adesanya really rose to the occasion.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of the fight when it was made, but Kelvin's willingness to engage is really what separated them. A lot of guys could get to Adesanya if they're willing to bite down and walk through fire. The fact of the matter is most people are not willing to walk through fire to get to do the damage necessary to put themselves in position to do the damage that he did. And he was willing to basically be tortured and punished and have his career shortened to have a chance at that title. I wouldn't say it's the most technical fight. Strategically, it was very interesting. As far as the minor adjustments, it was very interesting. And in this case, you could actually, there's title fights you see guys fight and you're like, I don't feel anybody really wanted it. I felt like one person showed their class, one person showed their professionalism, but I don't feel like it was a life or death. They really would have did anything to get that win. And in the case of Gastelum, he really was willing to take each and every aspect of punishment that Adesanya gave him. And for the first time, Adesanya had to really take abuse. He took some shots against from Anderson. He took a couple shots here and there, but he never really had to He was never put in a position where he could lose, where he could quit, where he'd be within his rights not to get up or not to come back. And he really showed that he wanted to be a champion, and he really showed that he had a fighter's heart and a fighter's character, because he took a lot of punishment, and he had to persevere. So it was a fight where both guys were the hammer and both guys were the nail, and both guys came back from bad spots and continued to press on. And that's what I think really separated. You felt the hunger between those guys. Everybody took each other's best shot and kept coming. In most fights, even the highly contested fights we had, once somebody landed their best shot, the fight was essentially decided. And this fight really wasn't decided until it was over.
What are some honorable mentions for you?
The Rose Namajunas, Jessica Andrade fight, I think, even though it was fairly one-sided until it ended, just seeing Rose come out in a manner you rarely see Rose come out gunning like that. Like, Rose was looking for the knockout. Rose was looking to punish her. And then to see the fight just turn so dramatically so quickly. I mean, she's winning. It's a little bit closer, a little bit more competitive. Andrade made a slight adjustment, and the next thing you know, it's literally over. Rose made one mistake, held on too long, and the fight was over. And I want to say it's unpredictable, but given who she was fighting and her style of kind of just cavemanning women, it was pretty predictable. But it was still a spectacular win and a spectacular way to finish a fighter. I think that has some precedent for being fight of the year.
True. Now, I want to talk about the story of the year in 2019. And while he did not get selected for fighter of the year, I do think the rise of Jorge Masvidal is probably the story of 2019, because if you look at what his career trajectory was, he looked like someone that was always going to be like in that contention type area, but would never get over the hump, especially with that loss that he took to Al Iaquinta. That's always like a standout loss to me when it comes to Masvidal. But he had a year this year where he stopped three guys. He stopped Till, he stopped Diaz, and he stopped Askren. And while those may not be huge fights from a contendership standpoint, they're the type of fights that put him in a position to make more money than he's probably had at any other point in his career. And you see professional wrestlers talking about him now. You see the people that were in the crowd at UFC 246 or whatever that number was. You see The Rock wanting to deal with him. The Rock wanting to be there and put the title around his waist. You see so many different doors being opened up for him now that I think that he has put himself in a position that if he capitalizes on this moment and makes the most of matchmaking for him in the next 2 to 3 years, we could be looking at someone that has crossover appeal when it comes to being just more than an MMA star.
Yeah, I agree with you on this, but the main reason I agree with this is a little bit different. A lot of fighters always blame the UFC for why they can't get bigger. Amanda Nunes has been done a disservice, even though she's fought on multiple big cards and fought all the most popular names in women's mixed martial arts. The UFC is the reason why nobody likes her. She fought Ronda, she fought Misha, she fought Holly, she fought Cyborg, almost one after the other. And even though she was headlining cards and fighting the most popular fighters, it's the UFC's fault she's not popular. Mighty Mouse, he's excellent. He's class personified. He's the best fighter of all time, yada, yada, yada. But the reason he's not popular is because the UFC won't let him be popular. Guys like Derek Lewis have proven that's not true. And once again, Jorge Masvidal has proven that is not true. Nobody cared about Jorge Masvidal. The UFC didn't care when he got signed. Nobody cared when he got signed. He was always the B-side in almost every single fight he's been in. In all these fights that turned his career around, he was still the B-side. B-side against Darren Till. Till was supposed to win that. B-side against Askren. Askren was supposed to win that. B-side against Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz was supposed to win that. He has not been the A-side in any one fight, but he single-handedly turned himself into an A-side fighter by showing some charisma, being open to any and every possible interview or any platform made available, and by winning fights. All these guys keep telling me how the UFC is holding me back. I can't get any opportunities. I can't get in interviews. How are you not getting interviews? Are you not getting them, or are you turning them down because you want to train? Are you not getting them are you turning them down because it's not your style? You don't have time. You want to spend family time. That's all well and great. But to be a star, to be a name fighter, you have to do more than just win fights. You have to put yourself out there. You have to treat building your brand the same way you treat as fighting. And most of these fighters refuse to do it. They don't want to do it. They hear him complaining, I have to answer this stupid question again. Answer the question and get a new fan. And better yet, answer the question in a funny way so that we find some charm and humor in what you're doing so that more people will like you and we'll see a different side of you. No, I just want to answer this stupid question. It's a dumb question I've answered 1,000,000 times. You don't think Jorge Masvidal's been answered the same question a bunch of times? But he knows better. He knows to show his charm, show his charisma, show his sense of humor. And instead of looking at it as an obstacle, he looked at it as an opportunity. And he single-handedly turned his whole image, position in the sport and position in the UFC around just by taking advantage of the opportunities presented to him instead of whining and crying about all the opportunities he missed and how they keep asking him dumb questions and he has to go on to these stupid shows and I just want to train. No, that's not how it works if you want to be a star. You got to do it all. And these guys don't want to pay the price to be a star. And if you're willing to pay the price and you're willing to put on an act and you're willing to play up your characteristics a little more and you're even the slightest bit interesting, you too could be a Jorge Masvidal. Last year, it was Derek Lewis who was on everybody's news doing the same thing. These fighters make excuses for why they're not popular. They make excuses for why they can't get paid. They make excuses for why they don't get over with the average fan. Well, the average fan is stupid. No, you're just boring. You're boring and you're lazy. You don't want to be away from your family. You don't want to break training. You don't want to inconvenience yourself dealing with people who aren't real fans of the sport. Like, that matters, dude. Do you want to get paid or not? He decided to make a decision, and it paid off for him. And he once again has made a fool of all these people who say, you can't be a star because the UFC won't let you. Derek Lewis was a star last year. And don't nobody care about heavyweights. He didn't fight the biggest draw in the sport, one of the biggest draws in his sport. But Amanda Nunes fought 3 of them, and still nobody cares about what she's doing. It's not the UFC's fault. They don't care. Some of this has to fall on you. And Jorge Masvidal proved that point again. The same point I keep telling people. You want it, you make the sacrifices, you will get it. He wanted it, he made the sacrifices, he got it. That's what the story is. He wrote his own narrative.
Good thoughts there, sir. Good thoughts. So I want to use this opportunity to segue into the closing of the show, some final thoughts. Let everybody know what you are working on this week and where they can find your content, sir.
You can always find my content. Mostly I've just been on Twitter. I've been writing a lot, but I just haven't been able to get anything down. Mostly because this training thing is really kind of just taking up a lot of time. I know nobody cares because it's basketball, but I was able to get 3 kids on varsity. I got kids like doing better. It's kind of a cool feeling helping people out. I like it and make some money at it. So it just takes a lot of my time up. And that's when I'm not helping fighters, whether it's boxers, MMA fighters, actually like go over scouting stuff. It's just very hard to find time to sit down there and type the way I want to and write the way I want to. But I am working on this Green Arrow part. I think it's going to be 2 parts, and it's going to be coming out, I think, next week and the week after for the finale, the second to last episode of Arrow and the final episode of Arrow. In honor of the Green Arrow, kind of breaking down his weapons, his approach to fighting, and some of the techniques he used, similar to my Captain America piece. And then I'll probably try to get back in the habit of kind of writing my usual scathing articles about fighters and hoping nobody shows up at my house trying to fight me.
True that. So, as I said, we're going to continue making changes to this show. So be aware and keep a close eye on our content and just kind of keep an eye out on what we're doing here. So as always, thank you for checking out the MMA Ratings Podcast. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MMA Ratings Net. You can catch us on YouTube at the MMA Ratings YouTube channel. We're also on Anchor, which manages our uploads across Spotify and other platforms. So check us out there as well. And we'll be back on Tuesday of next week to talk more MMA and do our UFC 246 preview. My wrestling podcast, Let's Talk Wrestling, will be moving to Thursdays, and I'll also be doing special shows after major pay-per-views on Sundays. So as always, thank you for taking the time to check us out, and we'll be back next week. And have a great weekend, everyone.
Have a great weekend. Excuse me.